Your SGP exam is right around the corner, and you are staring down a massive, dense list of 20 must-do questions. The standard, flawed reflex is to start at question 1 and grind your way straight down to question 20. Trying to learn switchgear and protection sequentially often leads to a predictable outcome. You burn out halfway through the list, leaving your brain scrambling to recall complex internal mechanisms under exam pressure. Instead, you need to treat the hours you have left like an investment portfolio. Your only metric for success is maximizing the marks you get for every single minute you spend studying. This creates a strict dilemma. Do you spend 3 hours mastering a high-yield, complex circuit breaker diagram, or do you spend that same time quickly securing a dozen low-yield theoretical definitions? To solve this, we map every question on that list against 2 metrics: the actual effort required to learn it and its likelihood of appearing on the paper. Success in SGP requires a time-optimized prioritization strategy that matches your study habits to the specific scoring structure of the exam. This chart shows the syllabus mapped onto a matrix, weighing your study effort on the horizontal axis against the potential exam marks on the vertical axis. We begin with the most resource-intensive category on the test, situated in the top right quadrant, the major projects. This group holds the heavy hitters of the syllabus, the SF6, oil, and air circuit breakers, alongside the Buchholz relay. Moving to the top left quadrant, we find the conceptual heavyweights, where the required effort drops, but the impact stays high. This is where protection schemes and substation concepts live, the MERS price scheme, differential relays, and GIS. Finally, we drop to the bottom left quadrant to target the easiest group of the 20 questions, the quick wins. These are your classification and comparison questions, isolator versus switch, grounding types, and fault categories. These require massive input. You are looking at 2 to 3 hours of active practice per topic, drawing the internal mechanisms from scratch and writing out the operating principles without checking your notes. Because these are staple questions in the long answer sections, they provide the highest single-item point totals on the entire paper. The critical trade-off is that diagram-heavy topics are highly sensitive to memory failure when the clock is ticking. If you rush the preparation and mislabel a single float switch or valve on the Buchholz relay diagram, the examiner will frequently dock the majority of the marks for that question. Major projects yield the highest rewards, but they demand dedicated, repetitive diagram practice that is difficult to master if you only start the night before the exam. The required input here is different. Instead of drawing physical mechanisms, you need a deep comprehension of baseline electrical faults and the ability to trace logical circuit flowcharts. Mastering these secures the core application section of your paper, which often accounts for the middle third of the total marks. These schemes are difficult to rote memorize because they rely heavily on a pre-existing understanding of foundational SGP theory. If you get stuck trying to learn the underlying electrical theory from scratch just hours before the test, you will lose critical time that could be spent on high-yield diagrams. Conceptual heavyweights gather points efficiently, but they act as a dangerous time trap for students missing the baseline knowledge. The input here is minimal. You need about 20 to 30 minutes of straightforward rote memorization using basic comparison tables. By knocking these out, you secure fast, short answer points and build immediate momentum during the first few minutes of the actual exam. The major trade-off is the point ceiling. In a standard SGP paper, these comparison questions rarely exceed 15 to 20% of the total available marks. Relying on these alone makes it impossible to reach the typical 40% passing mark, as the math simply doesn't add up without the high-value long answers. Quick wins are essential for padding your final score, but they offer zero survival value unless paired with at least one high-yield diagram from the major projects quadrant. Your route through the matrix is dictated by the hours left on your clock. If testing in a day or two, follow the survival plan. First, lock in all quick wins. Second, master exactly 2 major projects, usually the SF6 and Buchholz. If you have 3 or more days, shift to the mastery plan on the right. Start with the conceptual heavyweights, then run the table on the major project diagrams. You must explicitly abandon the rest of the complex syllabus. Leaving questions blank is the calculated price you pay to guarantee your mastery over those two specific high-yield diagrams. Your advantage as an optimizer comes from locking down the conceptual logic early, then using flawless diagram labeling to secure the top-tier marks. To get the exact reference material you need for this strategy, comment SGP answers below, and I will send you simplified diagrams mapped directly to these specific quadrants. Conquering the SGP exam isn't about reading every single page. It's about deploying your limited time exactly where it buys the most marks.